I'd like to welcome and introduce our guest, Cynthia Palmaria, again from Migranti Alberta. So Cynthia moved to Canada from the Philippines 30 years ago through the sponsorship of her parents who came to Montreal in the 1980s as caregivers under the foreign domestic movement. She moved to Edmonton, Alberta in 2013 with her husband and daughter. In the same year, Cynthia was one of the co-founders of Migrante-Alberta, which is a Filipino organization that advocates for the rights and welfare of Filipino workers. She is currently working as a faculty member at the University of Alberta in the Radiation Therapy Department. So thank you so much for being with us today, and very much looking forward to listening and learning from you. So Cynthia, I will pass it over to you.
Thank you, Esther. And I'd like to thank John Humphrey for, keeping in mind Migranti Alberta and the Filipino community, and for us to be able to take part in the Paint the Rail project. It's such an honor to, it was quite an experience. It was a lot of fun. And despite the pandemic, we were able to, look into how we can bring our culture, our experiences, tell our stories. And so I was excited, like this morning, I was looking in my closet for something to wear that would remind me of the Philippines, because during the workshop, we were looking at, we brought like memorabilia of what reminds us of the Philippines. And so today I'm wearing this like blazer that reminds me of the indigenous community in the southern part of the Philippines called Lumad. And it reminded me of the similarities of the experiences of the indigenous peoples here in Canada, where the oppression and the how they're treated in the Philippines, but at the same time, sharing their stories is important in educating even our own communities. And so I'm proud to be wearing this because during the Paint the Rails, I did share also another fabric, which you'll be able to see in the Clearview Paint the Rails project. So quite vibrant. And so we're really happy to be part of that. So thank you, Esther, for the introduction. My name is Cynthia Palmaria, and I am, I'm sorry about my dog. She wants to be part of the presentation too. So yes, my name is Cynthia Palmaria, and I came to Canada through the sponsorship of my parents, who came as caregivers. And although they came as professionals, but no accreditation of their skills that's similar to a lot of Filipinos are experiencing right now here in Alberta, in Edmonton. So in 2013, we started an organization called Migrante-Alberta. And although our mandate is to work and advocate for the rights and welfare of Filipinos, we also work closely with different organizations, unions, other ethnic groups, and institutions like John Humphrey. And a big part of our mandate is to educate ourselves and educate the broader community about the situation of migrants, so that we can build more connections. We can build through our stories and join in our struggles to make a better situation for different communities here in Edmonton. Yeah, and so apart from my work as a faculty, as a radiation therapy faculty at the University of Alberta, Migrante-Alberta is the work that I do outside my work on the weekends, and just continuing to build on the community that we have here in Edmonton. And so I'm going to try and share a few slides. And are you able to see my slides? Okay,
yes, we can see.
Yes. And so during the Paint the Rails project, we had a few of our members participate. And although I guess part of the things that we shared, apart from the culture that we brought with us, right? What's represented in that also is our struggle in our experiences as a community. And so I just wanted to share with you some slides that would show the contribution of the Filipino community, Migrante, in Edmonton. Okay, so just a little bit of the introduction of Migrante. We are a part of an umbrella of community organizations across Canada since 2010. Migrante Canada was formed all across Canada, but Migrante-Alberta was formed in 2013, and we do have groups in Edmonton, members in Red Deer and Calgary, and since then we have about 150 members since we started the organization. So with Migrante, we're also part of an international umbrella called Migrante International, where they have members in Asia Pacific, in Europe, Middle East and North Africa, and USA, and Canada is one of the chapters of Migrante. So as an organization, one of our biggest mandate is education, right? And so aside from organizing educating ourselves of the situation in the Philippines, in Canada, in Alberta, we also do a lot of skills training. Knowing for the workers to know their rights as workers in Alberta, step-by-step organizing so that we can build our community, make a stronger community, right? And we talk about our history in the Philippines, the history of migration to Canada, and how we can contribute to 3 different levels of government, right? Within, the city levels, within the provincial level, and within the federal government. And so what you're seeing here is pictures of temporary workers, a lot of the members of the community trying to prepare for the English proficiency exam. And so through that, we share our experiences, we share some of the problems that we have, but the important component of that is like we're building a support system for each other as we practice speaking our English proficiency. We also do a lot of campaigns. One of the campaigns that we're working on is regularization, where in Edmonton, in Alberta, a lot of our members through the, because of the, say, the pandemic, a lot of delays of bureaucracy, a lot of them have become undocumented. And so we are campaigning to support these workers who have become undocumented through no fault of their own. And part of the issue is children of migrants who have lost their status haven't been able to access school. So that's a lot of the, that's some of the issues that we have been dealing with currently, right? They have become victims of consultants, immigration consultants, where they pay $10,000 to $15,000. And so access to healthcare has also become an issue, especially during COVID, right? Even if they paid taxes, that's something that they're not able to take to access. And so as an organization, we take referrals, we have volunteers that we take in, and we do a lot of policy and working with the city in order to be able to work together to see what we can do for the migrants. Right, and then a lot of alliance building as well, working with different communities for education, for lobbying, to work on our campaigns. And so these are just some of the pictures that Migrante has participated in Edmonton, supporting Women's Day, struggle of workers like our postal workers, and we also send members of our alliance to the Philippines to learn more about the issues. And so just to show you a little bit about how Filipinos have come to Canada, to Alberta, right? And so under the Temporary Foreign Workers Program, there are 3 streams where they're able to come into Canada, right? The caregiver program, that's how my parents were able to go to come to Canada. And so these are the workers that come to Canada caring for children, the elderly, and people with high medical needs, right? And so this stream have access to permanent residency. The Temporary Foreign Workers Program, where a lot of Filipinos have come in to work in the service sector. It's considered as a low-wage industry, but a lot of them work in the food industry, hotel and service. A lot of them in food industry, like say what you would see in Cargill, for example, right? And so these are the workers that have come under the Temporary Foreign Workers Program. So yes, a lot of Filipinos have come into that. This was implemented in the early 2000s, and so a lot of Filipinos have come in the beginning of 2000, contributing in the different industries here in Alberta and in Canada. This is Seasonal Agricultural Workers Program also have brought in farm workers, most of them coming from Latin American countries, but they don't have a pathway to permanent residence. So Filipinos in Alberta, just to show you the composition of Filipinos in Alberta. Higher numbers will be seen in Edmonton and Calgary, right? So Calgary wins with 75,000, but in Edmonton, we have about 70,000. So it's a close number between Edmonton and Calgary. And in different parts of Alberta, they're also spread far and wide, working as a lot of them have become permanent residents also and have built families and homes in different parts of Alberta. So some of the issues that they have faced, right? No mobility. A lot of these workers are tied to one employer. They've paid around $10,000 to $15,000 for immigration consultants. A lot of them face cultural isolation. At least in Edmonton, we have like a bigger community where we're able to support them, like Migrante-Alberta, right? But in smaller rural areas, that's a little bit more challenging. And they have a lot of issues when it comes to accessing labor and government bodies or community organizations where they can find a lot of support. Some of them have no access to permanent residency, but because of difficulties back in the Philippines, a lot of them have made that difficult decision to stay, even if they have become undocumented. Long family separation also have become, it hasn't changed a lot from my time when in the 80s. I was separated from my parents for 8-9 years. And a lot of the children that you would see in school, Filipino kids also have been separated from their families before they were able to rejoin their parents here in Edmonton, Calgary, and other parts of Alberta. So long family separation have become a long-standing issue for our community. So just to show you some of the contribution of Migrante-Alberta, we have been able to win campaigns. For example, Vicky Venancio, she was working as a supervisor in McDonald's, but she was hit by a truck on her way to work, and she became quadriplegic, and because of that she was going to be deported. So as a community and the broader Canadian public have supported the campaign to let Vicky stay, and a lot of other workers have suffered, have gone through the struggle of being able to stay as permanent residents in Canada, right? So like Jason from Red Deer, And also we've had other caregivers who had issues of access to healthcare after contribution of so many years into Canadian economy, into Alberta. They've lost their status and not able to access housing, healthcare, or education for their children. Again, so these are just some of the issues that we have faced, particularly in the Filipino immigrants. Even if they have become immigrants, right, the credentials are not recognized. There's racism and discriminations, even worse during COVID, looking for that sense of identity and belonging and access to higher education. Family issues of domestic violence and the cyclical issue of poverty. And right now we're trying to build we're still trying to look for to be able to build a center for Filipinos in Alberta. And although we're one of the biggest ethnic communities in Alberta, that's a struggle that we're still trying to work on, building a Filipino center. Some of the campaigns that we have won, right? McKenna, who is now 7 years old, right? When she was born out of an undocumented mom, and so because of that, even if she's a Canadian citizen, she was not able to access any kind of like say healthcare and other social services like any other Canadian born child. And so in Alberta, that's one of the things that we had to campaign so that Canadian born children of undocumented moms will be recognized. And so we were able to win that campaign. And so now Canadian born children of undocumented parents can access social services like any other Canadian citizen. Cuento't Litrato, that's one of the Photovoice project that we did. And so we did like skills training through photography where different Filipinos, whether they're temporary workers or born and raised here in Canada, we use photography to tell our stories. And so we were able to have like an art exhibit in Edmonton, in Calgary. And this picture you're seeing is in Calgary Arts Common, where we were able to tour that and tell the stories of Filipinos in Alberta. We were also part of the campaign to have Philippine Heritage Month, June as a Philippine Heritage Month declared in Canada. And Alberta was one of the provinces that signed into that. So we were very proud of that achievement of the Filipino community. We've been participating also in Edmonton Filipino Fiesta, where there's an annual event. So this is in Borden Park every year now. And this is one of the events where we can showcase Filipino culture, food, and then there's different programmings that highlights the Filipino community in Edmonton. One of the more recent ones that we saw in the Filipino community is the Cultura Basketball. So again, this is in September that happened this year, where we're able to see and highlight Filipino culture. And so this was a beautiful event that was done in Edmonton Horlock Park. So the regularization campaign, which I mentioned, is something that we're working on in Migrante-Alberta to support the temporary workers who have lost status and still continuing to contribute to the economy of Edmonton, economy of Alberta, yet working in the shadows and not recognized as humans contributing to the economy. And so human rights continuing to be violated because of being undocumented, right? And so that's something that Migrante-Alberta is continuing to work on with different communities and different groups here in Alberta and across Canada. And so as a community, we continue to educate ourselves and the broader public. We organize ourselves so that we can mobilize to build a stronger community. We are in Edmonton, in Alberta, and across Canada.